What is going on, guys? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Apologies for the delay this week. Usually won't have a delay, but we had people over doing some work on the house and they didn't leave, so we had to bump back the time a little bit. But same thing's gonna happen. We're gonna do a draft. I think we're gonna keep rolling with the Best Ball Mania ones, and I'll give you guys a reason. I'll join it in a second, so you guys, if you want to join into it, I'll give you a countdown for when I'm going to join it. Just because, I mean, I mostly recommend doing the tournament drafts anyways. I really wouldn't join into the random 12-team ones. There's no real upside in those. You're going to grind out like a $1 profit maybe over the entire season. I suggest doing these, and so I think it's better. Also, I like getting into lobbies that don't just have everyone who watches the channel, right, and has those picks. So I think we're going to do the Best Ball Mania. I'm joining it in 10 seconds, which means as I'm clicking it, that means you guys are going to be clicking it then, because we're on a little bit of a delay here. So join. Yes. Let's see. Oh, we can't detect my location. Oh, God. All right, well, let's try and join it again. If not, I'm going to have to try and All right, hold on, guys. Where is this? Let's go back into it. And let's see if we can do it. This has happened before on Underdog, even though I allow everything. So I don't know why it would care about being location. But while we're waiting, fire in some questions about anything. Dynasty, redraft. Some people asked if I can go over some Dynasty stuff in a future mock draft Monday. This is a better time to ask Dynasty questions because the mock drafts don't really all right, there it'll work. The mock drafts, I mean, I don't really know of a place that can do a great mock draft for Dynasty. And so also there's just so much to go over. It's if you have a specific Dynasty question, I feel like now is a better time to be asking that. All right. How's everyone doing tonight? Good. Celtics are on in 28 minutes, but it's the NBA, so it's always delayed. We'll probably get out of here around 8:30. Hopefully we'll only miss about one quarter, but you guys can give me some updates as to what's happening in that game, because I'm not going to know. You're in a Dynasty rookie draft right now. Nice. A lot of people have been doing those. I messaged our commissioner about starting up when ours is going to be, and I don't know yet. So we'll find out when. This is our first year doing that leagues. I don't know that they realized how early they usually are, but yeah, a lot of people do them now. Kyron foot, Bijan ankle. Thoughts? I would not worry about a single injury that happens right now unless it is and they would never tell us if it's severe so far out, but unless someone had a severe hamstring injury, someone had an MCL sprain, an ACL tear, obviously Achilles, the huge ones, then we can worry about it right now. If someone misses camp right now for literally any reason, don't worry about it at all. They are overly cautious this early. It could be absolutely nothing. It could literally be I've just got a little bit of discomfort. Sit them. Especially superstar players, don't worry about it at all. Don't draft at all. Honestly, hope that it happens to your person that you like so that people back off and you can get a 3 or 4 pick discount. You got Neighbors at 104, Coleman at 204. I'm surprised Coleman went that late. I'm not huge on him, but typically doesn't go that early. Although if you got Neighbors at 104, I'm assuming that's super flex. In which case, yeah, normal value there. And then, yeah. But Coleman feels a good value, 204. You think you had an interesting combo in one draft recently? What pick am I, by the way? 9? And I'll pull up the draft board once we actually care about it. We're in the first round right now. Interesting combo. You got Olave, Diggs, McBride, Kincaid, Kyler. So the double early. I don't mind the double early. I was talking to someone about that in the Discord. I'll go over that in a second. We'll take either Brees or Puka, whoever's left at this pick, by the way. And then if we take Brees, so I've been doing a couple different builds. I've ended up with a lot of that Brees Bijan paired with JT and Saquon. I don't hate that start. If you look back at the historical success, it's going to tell you in Best Ball Mania, you want to be attacking wide receivers, but that's also because we've had a few years in a row where RB0 is kind of one out. If that were to, so we'll take Brees here. It could pretty easily happen where Breece Hall is number 1 running back, JT's number 2 running back, and you starting off with that sort of combo, especially if they go off in the finals, or at least in those final weeks. It could, all of a sudden tilt the scale. Again, this is Best Ball Mania 5. We have 4 data points of samples. Remember I did the simulation study last year, kind of redid some of the stuff this year, but the numbers didn't really change all that much. There were absolutely builds that started off double running back that were wildly successful over time. So don't think that you just can't do it because you haven't seen a ton of success for it. Honestly, pretty easy second pick. You're taking one of JT, Marvin Harrison, or Drake London. Overwhelmingly likely that this decision will be made for us. Then there's a drop off into that Olave, Ayuk, Adams, Kyron, Debo range where all of them are the same. So being able to get kind of this last player, that's a decent pick. What spot were we? 9? 9 is a decent pick then. So I'll pull this up, you guys to see. Because I haven't figured out what the best spot to draft from yet is, but 9 is pretty sweet because there kind of is 9. I mean, you're almost always going to get these 9 off the board. Maybe someone reaches. I think last week someone reached for Saquon. I've seen Gibbs kind of thrown into there. Maybe AJ Brown, but for the most part, these 9 go 1 through 9. So you kind of have that top tier. Then you have a mini tier of this Wilson, Brown, Gibbs, Saquon, Harrison, JT, London. And so you're basically guaranteeing the last of that 9 and then the last of that next tier, which doesn't guarantee it's going to work out, but just kind of gives you a little bit better value than someone over here who got 2 of that second tier, or even someone over here who only gets 1 of that first tier and then they drop into that third tier of player. You might be one of the only picks, and we are the only pick in this draft to get that 1 and that 2. So kind of an interesting thing for the 9 pick. So I'd like to start. The lean right now is we're going to go hero RB, but I'm not opposed to if Derrick Henry is there at 33. We're hammering Derrick Henry at 33. If not, we might be looking at wide receiver. I've seen Josh Allen falling a lot recently. I think people are trying to push back his ADP and kind of get into this quarterback range starting in the more late third. We saw earlier on you had that early third round for quarterback, but that's getting pushed more into the late, and then a boatload of quarterbacks going in this range. I'd consider it, and it's also nice with Josh Allen that you have so many options later on. So you don't, normally it's you'd have Diggs. Did you get Diggs yet? No. Well, then it's not as good. Everyone you would pair Josh Allen with has, not come off the board yet at the pick. So if you have a value for Josh Allen, then you're just sitting there all right, who do I want to pair him with? And you have multiple options. You can go with James Cook. You can wait a little bit more and go with Kincaid. You can wait a little bit more and go with Keon Coleman. Wait a little more and go with Samuel, Shakir. It's you have Knox in the last round. You have so many options at different points of the draft that, it's an interesting one this year. I feel like I missed. Oh, yeah, the double tight end. Someone was trying to argue that they were the earliest a tight end has been drafted by a Best Ball Mania winner, or the second tight end was round 9. And it's again, it's a 4-team sample. Just because in those 4 years, the team that happened to win didn't draft that second early tight end doesn't mean it can't happen. It's been 4 years. That's 4 data points for the final week. It could happen this year that you just happen to get 2 monster scorers from a tight end, from an early tight end. Or what if you drafted, what if this Kelsey team were to draft Kincaid? Kelsey goes off the first 2 weeks. Kincaid drops a nuke in the 3rd week of the playoffs. That could happen too. So it's there's a bunch of different things that can happen to where, in a redraft league, do not draft 2 early tight ends unless you are in a tight end premium. But for this, you can absolutely draft 2 early. All right. So our options are not Derrick Henry. Where did Henry go, by the way? Seen Achan falling too, by the way. Henry went at 22. That's really early. So we can grab Josh Allen, who we talked about, it's the top player in the rankings. We could go with Jacobs, but I've seen him falling a little bit, and honestly, there's a chance we get up the next pick. At wide receiver, I feel like I'm kind of reaching a little bit. One of them's going to be there at the next pick as well. So to me, you just go with Allen, and we go with what we said, right? Take Josh Allen. We will have an opportunity later on, multiple times. Oh, and I'm not going to pull up the draft board probably for these mini turns. I'll put it up again for the big turn. We'll have an option to stack with Josh Allen at multiple points here. So him kind of being towards the end of that tier. I would say like I could throw Jacobs kind of into this final tier if you want to throw Tank Dell, Stephon, and Metcalf as well. But I do kind of think after like those guys, Hurts is a drop down from Allen, but like Kupp, T. Higgins, Lamar, Flowers, Pickens, like that's a different tier than what we've been drafting in round 3. All right. Let's see if we got any questions here. This is the year you make playoffs? Hopefully. Is the 109 in a one quarterback league too early for Brooks? So I'm assuming a Dynasty startup. Your running backs are Bijan, Singletary, Brian Robinson, Keaton Mitchell, and McLaurin. I was going to say McLaurin's a wide receiver. McLaughlin. I'll pull up my Dynasty rankings in a second. I don't think that's too early. I think that's right around where I have them drafted. I would say I mostly draft based off rankings, so I wouldn't think too much about. And yeah, see, Jacobs we still get here. So we'll take Jacobs at the spot. Yeah, we'll take Jacobs. I don't like thinking about team need too much in Dynasty startups because you really just got to draft the best player like over time, unless it was terrible, but like you don't have a huge need at running back. Like Bijan's obviously going to carry the load for you, so I'm assuming you only have one other running back spot. Singletary, honestly, I think is going to be fine this season, but you'll be able to rotate Singletary and Brian Robinson. It's not great what you have, but you can figure out running back 2 to where I wouldn't really change your drafting strategy in round 1. But 109, again, I'll pull up the one quarterback Dynasty rankings and we'll just confirm everything. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's like exactly where I have Brooks. So I'll look at the players around him. Okay, I have Brooks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have him at 11. If you wanted to take Brooks ahead of Pearsall, fine doing that. That's who I have at 10. At 9, that means you're probably... So basically, you're going to have the top 3 receivers, Harrison, Neighbors, Adunze. Bowers and Caleb are probably going to go off the board. Brian Thomas will be off the board. Worthy will be off the board. Ladd will be off the board. So that top, like, what is that, 8 is very likely to go, top 8. After that, you have more decisions to make. Many people at 9 will probably go with Keon Coleman. I would say, yeah, if you wanted to go with Jonathan Brooks over Keon Coleman, I'm fine with that. I think if it was me, I'd probably still just take Keon. Like even I have him probably a little bit lower than consensus, and I still have him there. I'd probably still take Keon. But if you want to take him, I think that would be fine. I just think 8 is probably the cutoff. If you had like the 8 pick, at that point, I probably would stick to the rankings there. I don't know what you just said. Several of my friends watch fantasy footballers and use Fantasy Pros. Do you do rankings differences? Do you do rankings differences on those platforms in addition to Yahoo? Well, Fantasy Footballers isn't like a platform, so I don't really compare it to what they have. I remember I had an app last year that looked at, it would basically just scrape, anytime you clicked it, it would scrape all the major platforms. So ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo, Underdog, NFL, like all those. It would just scrape all those, and it would show you what the ADP differences are. So if you were drafting on, say, Yahoo, it would show you, hey, here are the best picks, here are the worst picks when you're comparing across to other platforms. Yes, there is an edge in knowing what the footballers have. I mean, you'd have to like subscribe to their like service though to like figure out what their rankings are, but there would be value in knowing at least who they like, watching some of the footballers' videos, knowing who they're hyping up, knowing how the Yahoo rankings are different from like who the best values on Fantasy Pros are versus Yahoo, knowing all of that, basically being like, okay, these are the players they're going to target more aggressively. These are the players they're not going to target as aggressively, and kind of having some players in the bag that you think might fall a bit further. Definitely, like absolutely value in doing that. I'm never obviously going to post what the footballers have for their rankings, so like I can't show you anything for that. But I will have something for like the major platforms that are just ADP based. But yeah, I'm not going to show you guys obviously like what other sites have for the rankings. You got to pay for that stuff. through them. Okay. I mean, James Cook just makes sense, right? If we want to stack up Buffalo. Also, I want to create a graphic that has all the week, like, he goes, really? Okay. I don't think, like, I already have the two running backs. I shouldn't go with Rashad White here. It's probably Terry McLaurin as the best pick. Because Kincaid also went at 53. That kind of stinks. Yeah, we probably are going to end up going with McLaurin here. Yeah, I'm not going to reach for anyone over there. Running backs are a no. Quarterbacks a no. It'll auto draft McLaurin for us here. All right. Not too bad, but definitely would have liked to get Kincaid or James Cook. So now our mind's going to shift to Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's going to be the second, or I guess the third now, option, second pass catcher we can pair with. But I don't think Coleman, he's at 72 ADP. I have him below, but to create the stack, like, I would still go against rankings a little bit. I would not take him at 64, obviously. So, I mean, our next pick after that is going to be 81. So unless Coleman falls, we're probably not going to, but maybe he'll fall 10 spots and we'll be able to go there. My guess is we're probably going to be looking more in the Shakir, Samuel, Knox range for the Josh Allen stack. But what I was talking about was I want to create a graphic for week 15, 16, 17 stacks, because I don't know the stacks yet. I have not, tried to memorize that. But to have an easy graphic to pull up to see exactly what teams we need to be stacking, because it would definitely be good to know. So if someone wants to look up the schedule for me and tell me the 3 teams that Buffalo is playing in weeks, really you'd want week 16. Probably that's the most leverage of any week. But 15, 16, 17, there's value in knowing those matchups there. What are my vibes on Mims this year? No vibes. I mean, they used him improperly last year. The hope would be they use him properly this year. But, I don't know. I like Troy Franklin as well, who they drafted. I think Mims is better, but I still like Troy Franklin. Sutton's still there. There's so many people that are there that aren't amazing, but are there and going to take targets. And it doesn't seem like he's going to be a featured weapon. Looking at this pick, I have just an unbelievable amount of Rome Odunze. So I kind of don't want to take him ahead of ADP here because he does fall a lot. I think I want to take Marquise Brown at this spot. Yeah, I think Marquise Brown's a better pick for me in my portfolio, because if I had to guess, I probably have 30% Rome Odunze right now. It could be as high as 35 or 40%. And Marquise Brown I definitely have below. So I think there's a little value in me going with there. No one has told me. Can someone please look up the playoff matchups for Buffalo? We got 60U in here right now. Someone be kind enough to open ESPN and put those down there. I'll do it in a few seconds if no one's going to do it. But yeah, no real vibes. I don't know. He's a fine best ball, totally fine, because he's a big play player and he goes relatively late. So there's no downside in really taking him, especially if you have a Denver stack, or if you're stacking on the other side of a Denver game late. In a redraft league, my gut says that this is I got to see it, honestly. I got to see him command, 15% target share, be consistently used. I got to see something in camp to where if I'm in a redraft draft right now, which I don't know why you're drafting in redraft right now, but if you were, I wouldn't, I don't know. I probably wouldn't draft him late. Detroit, New England, and then the Jets. Thank you, Real Talk. Okay. Beautiful then. So we already have the Jets stack. We don't need to hyper focus on their New England. We'll keep that in the back of our minds. We'll look at Polk, Baker, Douglas, Stevenson. If Stevenson could come up here. We'll look at those kind of players for New England, and then Detroit's pretty much all gone. Besides, I guess we could get Jameson Williams. So maybe we'll look at Jameson Williams a little bit ahead of ADP. Okay, that's not bad. Oh, is this the... Yeah, obviously I didn't join the slow Best Ball Mania. It's 8 hours to make a pick. We're not going to live stream 8 hours to make a pick. Those are egregious, though. These slow drafts, people do not look at their notifications. There's some of these slow drafts that take 2 full weeks to finish. I think I'm in 15 right now, and I've only finished 9, and I looked 3 days ago and I only finished 9. None of them are finishing. It's crazy. People just do not pay attention. How many tight ends is best to draft if I take somebody like Andrews, it's smart to take likely as a handcuff. So it'd be nice clarification. I'll do both answers. On Underdog, if you draft Andrews, you can definitely only draft one more, and I probably would not draft likely. You're trying to win the tournament. If Andrews goes down, someone else drafted likely. Tons of people drafted likely and did not draft Andrews. Plus, if you only want to draft two, you don't want to draft two in the same bye week. So Underdog, you would take two probably, and you would not draft the handcuff. There are builds that work out that are 3 elite tight ends, but you probably got to be getting pretty good value to be doing that. For redraft, I think that's totally fine. You wouldn't have to take a second one. When you did take a second one, you'd want to wait pretty late in the draft, around like 15, 16, 17. And yeah, I think actually drafting likely just as a handcuff would probably make sense there. Probably get my millionth share of Deontay Johnson. He is my most rostered player for sure. I don't think it makes sense to grab, if I had like CeeDee Lamb, if I had I have Jacobs, but I don't think it makes a ton of sense to grab another quarterback here. So we'll take Deontay. Again, I've drafted an unbelievable amount of Deontay Johnson so far this season. Jordan Love wouldn't be bad. What's the bye week on Love? Week 10, week 12. So we're good on the bye week. We would have Love and Jacobs, which basically locks in every touchdown they're going to score. Maybe you're going to get some where Marshawn Lloyd, runs some in. But, I mean, how many rushing touchdowns is Lloyd going to have? Like 2, 3, maybe. So you're going to basically lock in every single touchdown they score, and it's a really good team. So definitely an option for us. I would also not hate Zamir White. We would have 3 really high volume running backs to where I might just take 4 in total, and it would be really late, and we'd open ourselves up to a ton of wide receivers, because we are obviously a little bit thin at the wide receiver position. So Zamir wouldn't be bad. I also wouldn't even hate Kyler. You're just trying to capture, the idea of drafting 2 of these early quarterbacks is you're trying to hit on 2 league winners, 2 guys who can spike for 35 points. Okay, Kyler goes. And Kyler's one of those ones that has significant weekly upside. I wouldn't mind JSN. I know I've been down on him. I wouldn't mind it, but I was gonna say I think I'd prefer Zamir in this build. I don't hate him, and again, I'm down on him, but he is the top-ranked wide receiver. Probably makes a little bit more sense. Jordan Love is a totally fine pick to make at this spot. But if we're being honest, there's a pretty big drop-off into this next round of wide receivers. Yeah, JSN makes more sense. We'll wait on quarterback. We'll wait on the second quarterback, especially because it's, we have Josh Allen. So we will want one of Samuel or Shakir. We'll pull up the draft board down here. We're going to be at 105 and 112, so I would imagine we're going to end up with one of them. The hope would be Samuel at 105 because ADP is 100. And no one else has, obviously, the stacking partner, so we're hoping we kind of get the value there. In Dynasty, what running backs would you look to be buying when contending? I know you're a little bit lower running back overall. So those of you who don't know, if you're in Dynasty Startup this year, I'm lower than consensus on running backs in Dynasty Startup. My ideal build in a startup is you are hammering out, if it's super flex, quarterbacks early plus wide receiver. If it's one quarterback, you can definitely wait a little bit longer. My one quarterback league, I drafted Anthony Richardson and then Dak Prescott last year. Just trying to get an upside guy and then someone we knew was going to be solid. But wide receiver, you are attacking the wide receiver position early and often. It depends on the flex spot situation. In my league, it is 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, but then 3 flex spots, and it's full PPR. So I just assumed I was starting 5 wide receivers every week, and I just hammered. My first running back I drafted was Dameon Pierce, because I was like, well, I have to draft running back, right? No, you don't have to, because it turns out that I was wrong on that one, and I would have much rather had a wide receiver. I got lucky. I drafted Kyron Williams, also drafted Devon Achane, and so I got lucky later on. Many people who do this build, and what I was expecting when I did this build was to not contest for the first like 2 years, to have a really strong core of young, athletic wide receivers that I would have for like their entire career, and to slowly add on running back through the rookie draft and through trades. So if you use the rankings, you're probably going to be in that kind of mindset. Buying would I would honestly, it wouldn't be a specific player as often as it would be a team. Like if you notice a team, especially in season, is not contending, and they're housing like a running back. Like if a team was not contending last year and had like Mixon, they're probably much, much more willing to trade them away in season when they're like, okay, I'm not making the playoffs. I'm holding this asset that, is a diminishing asset in running back for sure. That's going to be another year older next year. On how many more years? I think that's when I'd trade. I don't really know like right now. But if I had to list off a couple, I like Pacheco because they didn't do anything to replace behind him. I wouldn't mind Stevenson because I'm not too worried about Gibson. Jalen Warren would be someone I'm interested in long term, especially with them not re-signing Najee. Kyron, I would be interested in buying low on if you can buy low. If someone is worried about Blake Corum, listen, they drafted Corum because they love Kyron. That still says a lot about Kyron being like, we love you so much that we want to make sure we not only draft your clone, but make sure you're healthy. That means they're not going to be going to Corum. And what if Corum's a bust? Has anyone think about that potential outcome? What if they tried to draft his clone, but he stinks, and they're like, well, got to go back to 95% Kyron Williams? Like, again, it says a lot that they really wanted to get someone exactly like him because they love him so much. So if someone's worried about that whole situation, he wouldn't be bad either. He's gone. So Samuel goes right at his ADP, pick 100. I would be fine taking Shakir here because there's really no difference. But if someone else, like I would prefer if we could get like Lockett then Shakir. Chubb's not a bad option for us because we know that Hall and Jacobs are going to have significant workloads to start the year. We don't need Chubb to be healthy right away. It's obviously risky. Nothing doing it at quarterback there. Tight end, Bowers wouldn't be bad, but I've seen him drop a lot, so we want to be careful with that one. I think the pick is Lockett. I think because we drafted JSN, we take Lockett, different bye weeks. We can go after Geno Smith perhaps later on. That's a really good duo for us. In terms of Geno's a great value right now. Like I'm projecting Geno at like 88% of targets because if I project him as a normal starter, I don't know why people are drafting him so late. I don't want everyone to end up with 1,000,000% Geno. But Geno, I mean, what's his ADP? His ADP is 174. So at 88% of the team's targets, I have him 8 picks above ADP. And maybe I should bump him up a little bit more and make sure we're getting more of him. But like, he's so cheap. And if he's going to actually start for the entire season and they're probably going to throw it more, like I don't get it totally. And that's also why I think, if we can get, Lockett and JSN paired together and we can just bet on Seattle on this build. If we're right and Seattle ends up being good, I got JSN at a discount because I think he's a little overvalued right now. Oh, Shakir really goes at 110. Ugh, that stinks. All right. Well, but anyways, we're going to be drafting Geno later, but not now. Running back would be Chubb. Other option would be Eckler, but honestly, I'd hope that we can get Tajay maybe at the wraparound. Chubb goes. That stinks. All right. Well, we want to make sure we don't get Geno here. Ugh, God. That's what the rankings have for everything. Oh my gosh. Are we really going to go with Austin Eckler? I truly do not want to do that. But there's nothing else. Ew. Oh my God. All right. Well, it's not a terrible pick. You're just crossing your fingers and you're saying, please, 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 were you bad last season because of the injury? Which he said, but of course he's going to say that, right? But he was very vocal when he got hurt last year, being like, this is a high ankle sprain. This is going to basically be an injury I have for the entire season. It's just, I don't know. I don't love that one. We really, back to back, Shakir Chubb, that was tough to watch. That was tough. That was kind of tough on us. Anyways, but I just don't know who else we would have gone after. I mean, like, I like Myers, but I don't want to reach 11 spots for him. We might be able to get him in our next pick. I like Spears, but it's the same thing. It's like I didn't want to reach, but maybe I just should have. Maybe I should have just taken Spears. Yeah. Oh, well. I do still have, I mean, I like Spears a lot. I still do have Eckler ranked ahead of him, but we'll see where he ends up going. Maybe I should have taken Spears at that spot. Been getting Waddle in the late 5th, early 6th round lately. I'm assuming you mean redraft. I have not personally seen Waddle fall past the mid-3rd. I have not seen him enter the 4th round. So I'm assuming that's a redraft comment, which I can't comment on because I haven't done any like redraft besides the mock draft Mondays. Are making positional strategy videos again this season, i.e. what rounds optimal to draft quarterback, tight end, running back, etc. If you can you include superflex, 2 quarterback leagues, and 3 wide receiver in those? TBD. I did a pretty big project this offseason, scraping, I don't even remember what it was. It was over 1 million sleeper teams that were more specific. So I knew if they were superflex, I knew if they were 3 wide receiver leagues, things like that. And I did create an app on the site where you can go in and you can be like, I am in a half PPR, 3 wide receiver league. What are the ranges I should be taking my 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th running back optimally? So that's on the site right now. And I think I will probably turn that into a video. Unfortunately, I don't think there wasn't enough data for Superflex to fully trust it. So I think next year, once I have more time to go in, because it took a ton of time to write out that code to collect all of it and like get it perfect. Next offseason, the code's already written. I can go in and be like, okay, now spend way more time collecting, get to like 5 million teams. Now we have a much bigger sample size of Superflex. The same thing for like standard. Like I can't even give you numbers for standard. Literally 1%. Did you know that 1% of leagues are standard scoring? That's crazy low and great. Bravo to everyone. But yeah, I just didn't have enough data to really do Superflex in that study. That would be more me like talking over without the numbers, which isn't as good. Okay, gonna make sure we don't draft Geno again because it's too early for Geno. So we can't get Myers. That's why we didn't take him last time. Spears is gone. We'll look back as to where he went. I don't think running back here makes any sense. Goddard has been falling a ton. This is actually a pretty good spot for Goddard. We don't have a tight end yet. So Goddard makes a lot of sense for us. I don't know where we want Geno, so I don't think a quarterback would. So it'd be Goddard or Myers. I mean, it's more likely that Myers falls to us. So I'm going to go Goddard. I'm also looking at this team right here is going to pick twice. They have 7 wide receivers and no tight ends, so it's way more likely they went with Goddard. I think getting Goddard, 15 picks behind their ADP, maybe we can squeeze out a little bit more value. If we can get Myers as next pick, that would be really nice. I don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be really nice if we could. I would take Brandon Cooks. I have moved up Leggett a little bit. They talked about using Leggett on end arounds and stuff, and I was not projecting any carries for him, so I moved like that Smith, Imersay, whatever guy. I moved some carries off, all the carries off him, put him onto Leggett. He moved up a little bit in the rankings. Then moving around the formation a little bit. We don't get Myers, unfortunate. I moved him up. Again, I'm behind. ADP is, oh no, I'm ahead now. My goodness, I'm Leggett. We're not taking him here, but I moved him up. So if you were wondering why he was there. That's a no on tight end. We'll just verify everything here. A no on running back. We already have 3 that we kind of like. All right. Oh, I thought it was my pick. Huh. Jumping the gun a little bit there. They take Ford. That seems early for Ford, is it not? Huh. Maybe that's why I haven't ended up with a ton of him. Anywho, we'll take Brandon Cooks. What round are we looking at? No, we don't need this. What round are we looking at? Geno. His ADP was what, like 170 something? So we're looking at 177, 184 R2. He's at 174. So you can take a little bit more risk with quarterback because typically that late, like if someone's drafting Geno, they probably have a stacking partner. Where'd Metcalf go? Okay, it could work out for us. Metcalf was on the right. Okay, it could work out. So if we see here, 160 is going to go by and it's going to work this way and this way. We're going to get to 177. Metcalf is over here. So maybe the person at 180 would have taken Metcalf. But for someone to take Geno, I mean, they would have maybe like even the Kenneth Walker team. The Kenneth Walker team is right too. So someone over here would literally be taking a naked Geno after 160. So I don't think we need to make that reach, especially because, again, it's Best Ball Mania. Someone's getting a sick value on Geno Smith. We don't want to just guarantee that we're losing to them on value. But to close off that question, I think I'm going to make a video for that study because it's a really cool study. Would you keep Rachaad White or Isaiah Pacheco in full PPR? It's an auction league and they will cost me the same price. Your lean is White for the pass catching upside. I'll pull up the PPR rankings. I do like Pacheco though. I don't end up with him a lot in Underdog because I feel like he just doesn't fall ever. I mean, Pacheco's set up nicely. Like, I don't think McKinnon's going back. But I have Rachaad White 1.3 points higher than Pacheco in full PPR. So the rankings do say Rachaad. I would say, I mean, obviously you probably don't need to make that call right now, I would assume. So you obviously you can like maximize the time you can wait. We will see what happens with Pacheco. If I'm honestly already kind of projecting McKinnon to not be on the team, but if no one really steps up behind Clyde, and we can get Pacheco with no McKinnon, I could definitely see Pacheco rising over Rachaad in the rankings because Rashaad's had 2 years now, and like he's been fine, but I wouldn't call him amazing. It's just that he has no real competition, to be honest with you. So again, rankings right now say Rachaad. It's probably the better pick, but we'll see how that kind of changes. Thoughts on signing draft strategy as a whole this year? I feel like the skill curve is more flat than previous years. We're used to see an elite top 3, maybe 2 medium guys, and then the rest. Yeah, so you didn't see it as much in this draft because someone reached on Travis Kelce. He typically goes much closer to like the early 4th round, and he goes before Laporta. Yeah, we're seeing much more flat tight end drafting this season, which you could view a couple different ways. Let's make this pick first because I really don't want to. I swear, I just have this feeling I'm going to auto draft Geno Smith, but I'll get to that in a second. So Polk again makes sense here because remember in the back of our mind we have that New England stack that someone was kind enough to give us. Polk goes off. Polk catches 2 long touchdowns, forces Josh Allen into a much more pass-heavy game script. We'll want to remember. Goodness, I have Knox buried in the rankings. I guess, yeah, last one pick there. We remember Knox as a stacking partner. I wouldn't mind Jalen Wright here. Poop. Did we get that in time? All right. I think Wright makes slightly more sense because of how many wide receivers we already had. And again, how wide receiver heavy this one team went. Maybe it was a little bit sharper for us to take Polk, but we can get someone else too. We can get Baker maybe a little bit later as well. I think Wright makes sense. I'm probably only drafting 5 running backs here, and Wright now allows me to take that running back in whatever round and get a lot of upside. Like we see an injury to Achane or Mostert, Wright is a monster. We just see maybe this is the year Mostert falls off, right? Like Jalen Wright has significant upside this season. It's why I look at the round 2, which is turning to round 3 ADP on Achane, and I say, okay, but I can get Jalen Wright in round, nearly 14, late 13th round. That feels like a way better value to me than Achane early on. And just capturing that upside with the 2, Hall and Jacobs that we already have here, lets me feel very good about only 5 running backs and totally fine waiting as long as we want on that last one. Although Ray Davis wouldn't be a terrible consolation prize if we can't get Polk here. Don't get Polk. Okay. So we'll think about Baker, but that'll be later on. Yeah, I wouldn't mind making Ray Davis the pick here just to get something. Maybe we see an injury to, because it wouldn't be any other there. Although Mooney, that's a really good value in Mooney. It's one of those two. Anyone have a take there? Yeah, Tajio Reckler, right. Given that we just don't have... No, I don't like it. I'm going to do Mooney. I didn't love it. Because the correlation's not... Like, for me to win Best Ball Mania, Ray Davis is probably not running in 2 touchdowns because now Josh Allen, what'd he do, right? For me to win Best Ball Mania, I want Josh Allen running for 2 touchdowns and throwing for 2. So I'm basically hoping that I get Knox late, that Josh Allen runs for 2 touchdowns, throws 2 to Knox. I have 4 touchdowns for my quarterback. Knox ends up being someone you need in a, to like get over the edge for the tight end scoring, and that the other positions can figure everything else out. So Ray Davis, I will take him at the next pick if he's available there. I don't know that he makes a ton of sense for the build. I was talking about something for sure. Oh yeah, the tight end skill curve. Yeah, so I think Kelsey and Laporta are very close. I have Laporta over Kelsey. I think, this McBride, Andrews, Kincaid range, very close. I think Pitts has a lot of upside this season. I don't like Kittle. But Ingram has reception upside. Ferguson has touchdown upside. Bowers has reception upside. So we do have like a lot of different options, and it's incredibly unlikely that, Kelsey has a season, like he's had recently. Like they know how old he is now. His efficiency is going to be lower. His target share is going to be lower. They are going to save him for the playoffs. So he deserves to have the lower ADP. I think the strategy probably this season is make sure you don't leave your draft with Pat Freiermuth as your tight end 1 in a redraft league. Like if you really want to draft 3 late tight ends in Underdog, sure. I mean, you'd really just be hoping you can capitalize on one of them breaking out and then just like touchdown variance goes in your way. I think the move is probably trying to find the best value. I end up with a lot of Kincaid. It was unfortunate I couldn't get him this build. But a lot of Kincaid, sprinklings. I would say Kelsey probably the next most, because when he goes in that like mid 4th, it's a really good value for him. So Kincaid, Kelsey, McBride when he falls, Ingram when he falls, Ferguson I end up with a lot when he's in these like mid 90s, Bowers when he's been falling into like that 110 range. I typically have a tight end on Underdog before this Dallas Goedert pick. Just didn't kind of happen in this one. But yeah, I would say for a redraft league, grabbing one of them is probably the move. Like, do you really think like Ben Sinnott, Hunter Henry, Musgrave with all that target competition, even Dallas Goedert, with the amount of decent tight ends this season, like you are taking a pretty big weekly hit, which is something I need to consider in this build, because I probably want to have 3 tight ends. We said we want Geno at this next pick. And so if we're doing 2 more tight ends, we only have 1 other pick. So what position do we want it to be in? We want to go Geno, 2 tight ends. So it'd probably be like Geno. Be nice if we could grab Baker. Geno, Baker, Knox. Then what? It would probably need to be a running back. Okay, so let's think about the running back we'd want. But it'd be later. Again, we need Geno at this pick. So basically, Herbert would be the handcuff for, I think Swift gets hurt. I think Roshan is mediocre. Herbert is better early down back. They utilize early down back a little bit more because, Caleb isn't taking off as much as Fields. That's the narrative for Herbert. Don't mind it. McLaughlin, I can't go there. I can't draft him this year. Tyron Tracy, you're just hoping he has a really strong pass catching role. Pierce, you're hoping he gets traded. Esteem, you're hoping he kind of emerges. But given the options right now, honestly, My guess is we'll use our last pick on running back. So I think the round 18 picks can be running back. So maybe we just don't worry about that. So we're just, again, crossing our fingers here for Geno. This is probably the only team that could take him. Again, I wouldn't love it for him. It's a naked Geno Smith. Like, there's no reason to do it. All right. They went with Watson. I can't imagine this team. Why would this team draft Geno Smith? But if they do, thank goodness, because I don't know what I would have done. All right, let's take Geno. The buys are different, right? Thank goodness buys are out now. You know what's magical? I didn't even screw up. So in all those drafts I was doing before where I was like, I have no idea who the buys are because the schedule wasn't out, I did not have a single draft where I went through it. I didn't do any bye weeks where I drafted both quarterbacks in the bye. It was magical. I was expecting multiple teams just be dead in the waters because I drafted that. 0. So I was very happy about that. Do you think Henry is too early where I took him at 22? I feel like wide receivers are flat in the range. I do think it's early at 22 because I have a ton of Derrick Henry in the mid-30s. So, I don't know, like, so you take him here. Yeah, like, I prefer this range of wide receiver. It's a wide receiver heavy format. I would have preferred to grab, because you could have gotten Henry at 27. He would have been there. So I would have rather just gone like, Debo, Evans, Diggs. I would have maybe just double dipped. Get those 3 really good wide receivers. I understand it. Like if he has the 20 touchdowns that I think, then it's not going to matter, right? You'll need him, and you had him and Tyreek, and you could easily have a week where, Tyreek Hill and him combined for 6 touchdowns, and you needed that combo. But I think you're better off over time taking him at 27 there because many people, even 27 is a little bit of a reach. Many teams are going to get him later than that. We just need Baker here. If we don't get Baker, we'll probably just draft Bateman, and it'll probably not end up working out for us. I mean, we could go Douglas. Yeah, we could just go Douglas. If we really want that New England bring back, we could do that. Can't imagine he's going to auto draft Baker here. All right. So we get Baker. Been hearing some positive things. Is this the short? No, I don't think it is. Okay, I'll pull this up. I've been hearing some pretty good things about Baker in camp right now for New England. Again, don't believe a lot of the stuff you get in camp right now. But it seems like he's going to have a role. Maybe that's just hype right now. And that once we have, because they have a ton of wide receivers, just none of them are good. Once they have all these wide receivers, like Polk's the one. I think Douglas is good. Like I genuinely think he's going to be a starting wide receiver. But maybe it is actually going to be Baker. I never really considered it before, but he could be, on the field in 3 wide receiver sets. Like it could be Polk, Baker, and Douglas. And maybe they just don't use, is Juju even still on the team? I don't even know. But Juju, I have him projected for like 0.5% target share. He's just a placeholder. But Juju, Thornton, I think, is dust. Not even dust. Just like he was never good. He was never a thing to begin with. Basically, Osborne. He's beat out Osborne. But if he's going to, and they want to go with this like youth movement, which makes sense, right? Like if you think about the team, it makes a ton of sense to be like, okay, if we could hit on Polk and Baker, and Drake May ends up being like, pretty decent, and you can have them really develop with each other, that's a great long-term play. So I think if it's even close, you got to just kind of use Baker. But yeah, that's kind of thought process on, I think there's a good range for him. I think round 16 is a good spot. I had him tanked before. Kind of seeing these reports roll in makes sense to me. Anyone have an update on the Celtics game, by the way? Are we winning? It'd be really nice if we were. I don't know what the comment is. Oh, you were talking about like Hawkinson, Goddard, Kittle. Yeah. Also, I just don't know, like Hawkinson, his ADP's been falling. I've just been like, okay, let's pause and let's just kind of see where it settles. Because no one knows. No one knows when he's going to be back. My guess is as it keeps falling, because he's going in like the early like teens now, right? Like 1 teens. 125 now. So The 11, it feels like a good range for Hawkinson, but if he's going to keep falling down to like 130, 135, like I'm going to really start getting a ton of them. But I want to see, because you can track on the website. Maybe I'll pull that up. You can track on the website, like, how's people's ADPs fall, and we try and time where it's leveling off and attack then, because sometimes it'll level off, and then it'll kind of like rebound, almost like stocks, basically. But sometimes you want to like track that and be like, okay, this dude's free falling, back off, don't take it, because you're going to get, way better ADP soon. And that's kind of what I'm doing with Hawkinson right now. But let's see if I'm actually right. Okay, yeah. So if you guys look at this, again, it's free, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. Just go to the ADP Riders and Followers tab. Hawkinson kind of hovering around here. And then recently, just free falling, right? I want to see, and this is updated every day, I want to see, does it do this, or does it kind of keep going down and then bottom out here? Like, where is the bottom of Hawkinson? Let's find the bottom and then go from there. But again, yeah, this is completely free to use. I don't see why a ton of people wouldn't use it. ADP followers and riders over time. If you want to see it in table form, I just put it there because you can download it as well. I don't know why you'd want that as much, but like you can see Zay Jones going way up in drafts. But you could also just be like, oh, what about the last, like, I don't know, since Saturday for some reason and going to today, who is, oh, I didn't pull the today one yet. Anyways, don't mind that one. Once I pull that one, you can see today. But yeah, you can kind of track that. Oh my goodness, we're on the clock. We should probably take Knox at this pick, right? Yeah. There's no reason in us like risking it at this point with Knox. Grab Knox. Did I miscount there? All right, now we need to figure out what we're doing here. So I miscounted. I thought we could take the 3 tight ends and then also take the 5th running back. We cannot because we took Baker. So obviously we're done at wide receiver. We can't touch another one of those. Are we good with this running back core? Breece Hall, Jacobs, Eckler, and Wright? Probably not. We probably need to just hope that Dallas Goedert and Dawson Knox can really have some good seasons here. But we'll pull them both up. Esteem is probably the one I would roll with, but if I wanted to go with Urendo, if it's a Bigsby year, but these two are probably what we're looking at. Someone tell me in the chat, Esteem or Tucker Kraft, because with Kraft and Knox, we're just praying for touchdowns. All right, Esteem goes. So Kraft or Urendo. My gut says I can't have these 4 running backs, but if Jalen Wright is going to rotate in and just get you some production, if Eckler, we're just, again, crossing our fingers, being like, can you give me like, mid-round value, and that we just get a ton of touches from Jacobs, and then Breece Hall is just a monster, and we can get by. I just feel a little bit thin with Goddard and Knox. So if anyone wants to provide their input, now is the time. I think it's one of these two. Because I guess we could also handcuff with Braylon Allen. I don't think Braylon Allen's any good. My gut says risk it. That these 2 tight ends are just not going to be enough with teams that have better tight ends than us. Kraft is going to have some games where he scores a touchdown. That'll get us on the board. We're just praying for 10 combined touchdowns in 10 different weeks, hopefully, for Knox and Kraft, and that Goddard can kind of fill in the rest there. I think these 3 can do a good enough job. We probably drafted one too many wide receivers, but because we didn't really invest heavily in the position early on, I still feel confident that this is a very strong wide receiver core. It's going to figure out wide receiver and flex for us. Decent. Okay. I think the team is good. I wish there were 19 picks that I could have done for this team and gotten one more. I think Kraft was probably the correct decision there. Any auction content coming this season? I think we're going to have the, to ask the guy again. We have a tool that you can download for the site that is beautiful, that really helps for auction drafts. Have to ask on the status update for that one. But probably not very many videos. It's probably really come to live stream and ask those ones, because it's just no one searches it, and it's given the limited, especially this season, I have much less time than I had last year, at least until mid-July. So I can't make as many videos. If we're limiting the videos, I can't, no one watches the auction videos. So come to the live streams for auction questions. Looking back at last year drafting, only 2 tight ends hurt my team. Like week 15, Kincaid and Andrews both had 0 points. I mean, you're also assuming that Kincaid and Andrews aren't going to have 0 points, right? And maybe you don't, like if you had drafted around 17 tight end, I mean, they probably would have only scored like 3. Like, like I do think the math works out typically drafting the 3 tight ends. And I do think it was correct in waiting for Goddard in doing that. Like had we drafted a Kelsey McBride, Andrews, Kincaid, I think you kind of have to just kind of hope that those guys are going to have a really, really, really strong season and that you're going to win because that person carries you, especially in the playoffs, and you use that extra roster spot. But because I waited longer, I think it was the correct decision. We really just need to hope that Jalen Wright works out. Because if he doesn't work out and Eckler is dust and Jacobs is dust, this team is dust, right? But I think overall, it's a strong build, strong upside at wide receiver, quarterback, and then, yeah, we just need some of these volume guys to pay off. Okay. No one's giving me an update, so I don't know what's happening with the Celtics game. But we're probably going to end up getting out of here. So ask any final questions you have right now. 12-0. Beautiful. You'll love to see it. All right. Team 4 looks fire. And then asking if I can go over the teams. All right. Team 4. So I like to start. Chase, Nico, DJ Moore. I always like heavy wide receiver starts. Mahomes. Like it. Mahomes is a really good value this season. All right. So we're doing the RB0 start. You're drafting volume. Montgomery, Brooks, Connor have pretty locked in volume. Chase Brown for upside there. Keaton Mitchell, Roshan. I'm not in love with Keaton Mitchell and Roshan, but it's fine. So that's good. Judy, Troy Franklin. Did you draft? Oh, wait. Did I go the wrong team there? I was going to say, did you draft someone there? I don't love Michael Wilson. That probably isn't a reach given his ADP, but I don't love him. I do like Zay Jones, but I'm assuming you drafted Kyler, right? You didn't draft Kyler. Okay. I would have liked to see if you had drafted Michael Wilson and Zay Jones to have Kyler. I think it's a good build. I love. How about this? I love the first 8 rounds. I hate that you took Samuel from me, but actually that was a good pick too. So I love the first 9 rounds. Chase Brown, okay. I like the first 10 rounds. Daniels to Watt, okay. First 12 rounds. All right. Maybe would have done a few different things in the later rounds, but I mean, if I love your first 12 rounds, that's pretty strong. Why can't I make as many videos? Time this year. Getting married, honeymoon, new house, just a lot of things happening to where it's just within a week, I just have a little bit less time overall. For right now, it basically means the Thursday video where I was doing the player breakdowns, that's getting pushed, and I'm pushing off Sunday as long as I can. Thank you all. But the Sunday videos will eventually come back. So eventually it'll be similar to last year, but then just the Thursday will kind of be kicked off. But yeah. When do I get married? A month. You get married in August. Congratulations to you as well. Okay. I think it's time to watch the Celtics just steamroll the Pistons here. Pistons? Did I just say Pistons? We lost to the Pistons in the embarrassing game earlier this year. The Pacers. Watch them steamroll the Pacers. Trying to get 6:30 next week. Hopefully no one is in the house doing things. Then tomorrow is breakout second-year running backs. So we're going to go over some second-year running backs I like. We talked about a few of them today, but doing that one. And then Friday is going to be the running backs I don't like for year 2. So hit the like button. There's been a ton of you in here. Only 31 likes. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Pretty sure all you were already subscribed. But click the bell notification as well. If for anyone in here that is subscribed but has not clicked the bell, click the bell. It's going to make it more likely the videos pop up in your feed. But I'll catch you guys in the next